This is a review of the Phonak Audeo Infinio Sphere hearing aid by ChatGPT. Hey guys, Cliff Olson, Doctor of Audiology and founder of Applied Hearing Solutions in Phoenix, Arizona, and in this video, we're seeing what ChatGPT has to say about one of the best hearing aids on the market. So the Phonak Audeo Sphere Infinio hearing aid has been on the market for about a year at this point, and it is by far one of the best performing and most popular hearing aids ever launched. As of right now, my detailed video review of these hearing aids has over 119,000 views. But now that there's a ton of information about this hearing aid on the internet, user experiences, other detailed reviews, ChatGPT should have a ton of information to work with in doing its own review. Now, if you caught my last video where I asked ChatGPT to give me a hearing aid recommendation, you may have noticed that it did not recommend the Phonak Audeo Sphere. It actually recommended the Phonak Audeo Lumity hearing aid that was released several years ago. So we need to find out if ChatGPT is actually staying up with the newest, latest, and greatest technology innovations in hearing aids. But before I do me a huge favor and click the like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on, go ahead and do that as well. It's greatly appreciated. And let me know down in the comment section if you have ever used ChatGPT to learn more about hearing aids. So my initial prompt to ChatGPT was relatively simple. I basically asked it to give me a review of the Phonak Audeo Infinio Sphere hearing aid. It goes on to say what it is. Phonak's Audeo Sphere Infinio is their top-of-the-line premium behind-the-ear receiver and canal hearing aid introduced in 2024. Its standout feature is dedicated AI deep neural network chip called Deep Sonic, aimed especially at improving speech clarity in noisy environments. It builds on the regular Infinio line, which also has improved sound processing, etc., but Sphere adds more aggressive noise suppression and enhanced capacity for handling speech and noise. So right off the bat, ChatGPT does a good job of letting me know that this is the best hearing aid that Phonak has. Now let's go into some of the strengths of this particular hearing aid. So under key features and strengths, here are the main advantages people have reported. For the speech and noise performance, the Deep Sonic chip plus spheric speech clarity aim to separate speech from background noise more effectively than earlier models. Reviewers say it excels in challenging noisy settings. And you know what? It's absolutely right about that, but it doesn't really tell you how it's doing it. So if you're not familiar with what a deep neural network is, essentially it's this artificial human brain that you can feed a ton of different sound samples into, and then it will learn the characteristics that make speech speech and noise noise, and then it knows to be able to separate the two. Phonak actually used 22 million different sound samples, so this is an incredibly well-trained deep neural network. The result is slightly over a 10 decibel signal-to-noise ratio improvement, which is a huge improvement when it comes to understanding speech and background noise. And even though ChatGPT didn't provide a sound sample for this, I'm going to go ahead and give you one right here.
This was like the intro song, and I was like so behind the beat because when I would press it down, all of a sudden the pitch shift stuff was behind by like 10 milliseconds. I mean, it's enough to make the feel off, you know?
So as you can see, when it comes to speech and noise performance, ChatGPT is exactly right. This hearing aid is really good when it comes to hearing and understanding speech and noise. But let's go on to ChatGPT's assessment of the adaptive environmental processing. So AutoSense OS 6.0, Phonak's environmental detection, is used, helping the device adapt automatically as you move between quiet, noisy, music, etc. And again, ChatGPT is exactly right here. AutoSense OS 6.0 is fantastic because you can go into any different type of listening environment that you want to, and AutoSense is automatically going to identify that environment and put you into program settings that are ideal for that environment, and your hearing care professional can optimize all of those program settings for you. As far as the connectivity and features go, universal Bluetooth streaming, multiple device connections, hands-free calling in many cases, etc. Also, the MyPhonak app offers customization. So they're pretty limited here. I mean, they don't really go into the type of connectivity and everything that you can do inside of the MyPhonak app. So you can actually use up to 8 different wireless devices and pair them up to your Phonak Sphere hearing aids, and you can have 2 connections active at the exact same time, which is something that not a lot of other hearing aid manufacturers can do. They are also future compatible with Bluetooth LE audio and Auracast, which is the newer type of Bluetooth and the broadcast audio system that you'll be able to connect to when you go into public environments. Of course, those features are not necessarily available yet, which is why you're probably limited on what ChatGPT is going to give you about these hearing aids when it comes to that type of Bluetooth. All right, let's talk about rechargeability. So rechargeable option. Battery is rechargeable, which many users prefer over changing small zinc air batteries. Yes, they're rechargeable. That's very limited information there. The battery inside of these is actually really big, which is why the hearing aid is as big as it is, because when you're powering a deep neural network with that deep sonic chip, it takes a lot of battery life to do it. Now, the hearing aid itself will give you upwards of 18 hours of battery life on a single charge, but if you start using that artificial intelligence mode that's called spheric speech and loud noise, then you're going to actually drain that battery a lot quicker. In fact, if you were to take the hearing aids and put them right into that AI mode from the time you pull them out of the charger, you would get 7 hours of battery life before they die. I will say though, I was worried about the battery life on these hearing aids when they were first released, but I have seen that over the course of the past year, almost nobody runs into battery life issues with these hearing aids. As far as the durability and build goes, Phonak claims improved robustness, water resistance, though not waterproof for swimming, etc. And yes, these hearing aids are IP68 rated, and they took a lot of the features from the Phonak Audeo Life hearing aids, which you could basically submerge in water and have no issues with, and they took that technology and put it into the Sphere. So even though they're not technically waterproof, they are extremely water resistant. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows when it comes to the Sphere hearing aids. ChatGPT did identify some limitations of these devices, so let's go ahead and jump into those. Size and visibility. Because of the extra hardware, which includes the AI chip, etc., the Sphere is noticeably larger than many receiver and canal hearing aids. Some users find them to be more visible, from the side especially. If you care a lot about discreteness, this could matter. Yeah, these hearing aids are big. They're probably the biggest receiver and canal hearing aid that's out there, but I will tell you this. The performance is totally worth it. But before I talk any more about the performance of these hearing aids, you should know that even if you have limited space behind your ears, most of the size of this device is down towards the base or the bottom of the hearing aid. So when you actually put it on your ear, you don't run into many issues even if you're wearing glasses with these hearing aids, because at the very top of the hearing aid there, it's still pretty skinny as you wear it. So it basically becomes a question of, do you have enough space at the very bottom of your ear to hold this hearing aid? And I will tell you, I have been pleasantly surprised with how many people can actually wear this hearing aid and wear it comfortably. Now, I know that we talked a little bit about the battery life already, but ChatGPT did identify some limitations when it comes to battery life. Under normal use, battery life is decent, but when you engage the higher noise suppression, which is the Sphere mode, it drains much faster. Some lab tests and user reports show much shorter usage in noisy situations, and absolutely, this is true in the real world as well. When I was running my reviews of this hearing aid, I was able to get 14 hours a day and use 40% of the time in that spheric mode, which is the AI mode, but I wasn't able to get the full 18 hours of battery life when I was using the spheric speech and loud noise program. So if you're primarily getting these hearing aids to be able to use that Sphere mode, you're not going to be able to use that Sphere mode all day long. All right, let's talk about Sphere mode a little bit more from a limitation perspective. So according to ChatGPT, the speech separation, which is Sphere mode, tends to kick in only at fairly high ambient noise levels. Some users feel it starts too late, i.e. by the time you really need it, you're already having difficulty. Now, this is because a lot of hearing care professionals don't know to go in and adjust the activation of this AI program at a moderate level of noise versus the default, which is a loud level of noise. Now, yes, I still think that it should go in a lot quicker, because a lot of people would get additional benefit from this hearing aid if it would go into low noise levels, but again, they're just trying to preserve battery life. But here's the thing, you can toggle it into that program if you want to. You just have to keep in mind how much battery you're draining with your hearing aids, and you can always pop them back in a charger for a quick recharge if you run out before the end of the day. As far as what ChatGPT thinks about the cost and the pricing of these hearing aids, it is positioned at the high end. If you don't spend a lot of time in noisy settings, you might not get a full return on the extra cost. And I will say this, regardless of whether you're in noisy environments, this is one of the best hearing aids that I've ever reviewed on my channel. Yes, it will probably cost you more, especially if you go to a hearing care professional who really knows what they're doing to optimize the performance of these hearing aids. But yes, generally speaking, you're gonna have to spend more money for a substantially better hearing aid. The other limitation that they mention here is using open domes or vents. If you're using open domes or vents which let external sound in for comfort and naturalness, some of the benefit of noise suppression is lost because background noise still enters, so the fit style, which includes domes, molds, and vents, matters a lot. ChatGPT has this one absolutely right. If you want to lose a lot of the performance benefit of the Sphere devices, use them with an open rubber dome, because even though the hearing aid has the ability to filter out background noise from any sound coming into the hearing aid, if that background noise gets into your ear canal naturally, you can't filter that out. So to get the full effect of these hearing aids, you generally want to be in either a vented dome or more occluded ear mold. ChatGPT did also try to share some technical and spec highlights of these hearing aids, some of the more quantitative specs that may help in comparing to other models: high output and gain specification for various receivers, latency of 6.2 milliseconds, frequency response up to 10,000 hertz, and the operating time having all-day usage possible but reduced with heavy feature use. I will say that these hearing aids have anything from a standard receiver all the way up to an ultra power receiver that you can use on them, so I don't care if you have a mild or severe to profound level hearing loss, you can pretty much accommodate that hearing loss with these hearing aids. A latency of 6.2 milliseconds for a hearing aid is really good. As long as you're not getting above 10 milliseconds in sound processing delay, you're probably not going to notice it anyway. Now, ChatGPT does say that this has a frequency response of up to 10,000 hertz, and I'll be the first one to tell you that that is not going to be achievable in any human's ear canal. You're lucky if you're going to get 6,000 to 8,000 hertz of amplification out of these devices. And for the operating time, it should really specify what the estimates are for operating time, like I mentioned before, which is 18 hours a day of use, and you only get up to 7 hours of battery life if you were to stay exclusively in that AI program. Okay, so who does ChatGPT think that this hearing aid is best for? So based on what I've seen, this device is especially good if you frequently find yourself in noisy environments, restaurants, social gatherings, traffic, etc., and speech clarity and noise is a significant challenge for you. You're willing to trade a bit of size for performance gains. You prefer rechargeable units and connected features with streaming, Bluetooth, and hands-free. You want something that adapts automatically so you don't have to fiddle with settings much. Of course, this hearing aid might be less ideal for you if you prioritize very discrete hearing aids above all else. Your lifestyle is mostly quiet, so you don't often need the Sphere mode. Battery life and heavy noise is a concern. For example, long exposure to loud environments. Or cost is a big factor and you don't need top-tier performance. I agree a lot with ChatGPT here. I mean, if you're looking for a hearing aid that does the absolute best in a background noise environment, you'd be hard-pressed to find a hearing aid that does better than the Phonak Audeo Sphere Infinio. But they do have their limitations. I mean, they are definitely not ideal for individuals who have really small ears. If you're someone with single-sided deafness, there's no cross transmitter to use with these hearing aids, although I do have a number of patients who are deaf in one ear, and in their opposite ear they use the Sphere Infinio, and they just have given up on cross because they think that the Sphere mode is better than cross anyway. They are also not very ideal for someone who is getting them from a hearing care professional who is not used to setting up the Phonak Audeo Sphere hearing aids, because there's a lot of benefit that you would potentially give up if you have an unfamiliar hearing care professional fitting you with these hearing aids. As far as ChatGPT's verdict goes, the Phonak Audeo Sphere Infinio seems to represent a real step forward in what's possible for hearing aids in terms of speech separation and noise suppression. The Deep Sonic chip and spheric speech clarity are not just marketing. Many lab tests and user reports suggest substantial improvements in noise. If noise is a primary challenge for you, these are among the best options currently available, and I do wish that they would have added HearAdvisor's rating of these particular hearing aids. They were essentially the best rated hearing aid by HearAdvisor, which is a third-party independent testing lab when it comes to speech and noise performance. There is no hearing aid that has ever ranked better than these devices that you see right here. However, according to ChatGPT, they're not perfect. Visibility, battery trade-offs, and timing of mode activation are real issues. I'd recommend trying them under realistic conditions, noisy restaurants, busy streets, to see how they feel, and comparing with slightly smaller devices if appearance or discreteness are important. Overall, a very basic level review by ChatGPT. You can tell that I've added a number of different things that it didn't bring up in its review of these hearing aids. A couple of the major limitations that we haven't really talked about yet is the size of the charger. Now, a lot of people are like, hey, that's really cool. The charger's pretty small. The problem is if you use custom ear molds and try to fit them inside of that well right there, you don't have a lot of room for those custom ear molds, and oftentimes it can run into charging issues. They also mentioned nothing about the technology levels of these hearing aids. There are two technology levels, level 90, which is their premium offering, and level 70, which is their secondary offering. offering. The hearing aids are fairly similar, although there are more customizations that you have inside of the top-tier devices. The Sphere hearing aids are not available in any technology levels below level 70, whereas other hearing aids from Phonak also have level 50 and level 30. There's also a ton of great accessories with the Phonak hearing aids: TV connectors, partner microphones, and all of the Roger devices that utilize Roger Direct. If you haven't seen my reviews of all of those different accessories, you can check them out on my channel as well. And while it did mention the My Phonak app for adjustments, you can essentially use the My Phonak app for a lot of different things. You can adjust different programs, you can adjust the volume, you can go in and make adjustments to your program settings with a 3-band equalizer, you can add more noise reduction, take it away, do more speech focus, adjust your compression, you can do remote care sessions with your hearing care professional, and you can even track your steps with these. They also didn't mention anything about the motion sensor, which allows you to do double taps on your ears to answer phone calls, hang up on phone calls, activate your voice assistant on your phone, and pause and resume streaming. So even though ChatGPT did a relatively decent job at giving you some of the highlights of these hearing aids, they definitely left out a ton of features. I mean, shoot, my review video was like 28 minutes long and it was jam-packed with a ton of information. Now, I'm sure if you kept prompting ChatGPT over and over and over again, you may actually get it to give you more information, but how would you know to prompt it over and over and over again, because you may not even realize that it's missing anything? And perhaps the most important thing that we need to find out, as you know, is who you should go to get these particular hearing aids, because the hearing aid is only as good as the hearing care professional who fits and programs it for you. So like any good hearing aid user should do, I asked ChatGPT for a recommendation on where I should go to get these hearing aids if I wanted to find a hearing care professional who followed best practices. And here's what it said. Start with a hearing up provider, which is the best option. If your goal is to make sure that your hearing aids are fit and verified to the highest standard, the hearing up provider network should always be your first stop. What it is? A vetted directory of audiologists and hearing care professionals who commit to and document their use of best practices, including real ear measurement, speech and noise testing, and comprehensive follow-up care. Why it matters? These providers are independently reviewed via submissions and peer evaluation to confirm they're actually doing best practices, not just claiming to. How to find one? Go to hearingup.com, enter your zip code or city, book with the closest provider. Many people travel for this because proper fitting makes a huge difference. And they even gave us a pro tip. Even if you have to drive a few hours or fly once, many hearing up providers offer telehealth follow-ups, so most of your fine-tuning can be done remotely after the initial in-person fitting. They also outline what to do if you do not have a hearing up provider in your area. If there's no hearing up provider near you, you can't travel, or there simply isn't a hearing up provider in reach, here's how to find a quality alternative. Ask about real ear measurement. This is the #1 best practice step that many clinics skip, and it's the single most reliable predictor of whether you'll get an optimized fit. Ask about multiple follow-ups, ask about outcome measures, check their credentials. You can use resources like healthyhearing.com or AAA's Find an Audiologist. I love how they actually give you advice on the things to look for from a hearing care professional, because if you do not get those things that ChatGPT is telling you right here, you will not get the maximum amount of benefit out of the Sphere hearing aids. But it gets even better. ChatGPT even gives you a warning on what to avoid. Big box stores or chain retailers that do not use real ear measurement or offer limited follow-up. You might save money up front, but the fitting will likely be generic. One and done clinics that program the aids once and send you out the door without verification or scheduled follow-ups. And providers who say that real ear measurement is not necessary. That is a red flag that they aren't following evidence-based standards. Now, even if you can't find a Hearing Up network member in your area, one thing that you can do is go to hearingup.com and print off the best practice checklist. This way you can take those checklists in to a hearing care professional and ask them to complete all of those best practices for you. And if they refuse to do so or they can't do so, then just get up and walk out of that clinic and go to a different one that can do them for you. Overall, I think ChatGPT has a ways to go when it comes to making recommendations for hearing aids and doing detailed hearing aid reviews. But I can guarantee that ChatGPT is going to get better at these things. Now, will it be as good as I am? Yeah, probably. Anyway, let me know how you think ChatGPT did at reviewing the Phonak Audeo Sphere Infinio hearing aid in the comment section.